All right, fam, welcome back to Speedaddixx Garage. If you're new to this channel, my name is Demetrius Hall. I'm a car enthusiast. I work on Supras, turbocharged stuff. And today we're gonna start back working on the Nissan 240. Just a rundown. If you haven't checked any of my other episodes, if you haven't checked any of my old episodes, check those out. But basically I got a LS 6-liter automatic powered 240SX with an 80mm VS Racing turbo with a cam. And this go around, we're gonna put everything together to run ethanol and to try to see if we can make over 700, 750 plus. I wanted to start with my fuel system. With the fuel system being said, I would like to make a dual fuel pump hanger assembly that bolts right into the 240. We're gonna be running ethanol. With ethanol, you need extra fuel, quote unquote 30% extra fuel. We're gonna use 2 fuel pumps, and I'm gonna show you how to get it done in this episode. Wow, these are some of the components that I'm gonna use to get the job done. Start with our template. This is a super duper thick piece of stainless. I wanna say it's probably a 1/4 inch. It's got a little bit of weight to it. I could have used aluminum, but I decided to use stainless just because I wanted something to use as far as grounding. I don't know. I wanted something also that when I weld it won't distort as much. We got my template. This template came from a spare one of these 240SX fuel pump hanger assemblies. I basically used this, took a bunch of measurements for reference. We're doing a -8 coming out. So we're going to have to drill a hole, weld that into the top of this plate, -8. On one side of the -8 is gonna go inside of the tank. We have this -8 to a dual like -6 Ys. Each one of these little Y fittings are gonna have this attached to it, and on the other end of this will be to the fuel pumps. What's gonna hold this fuel pump is this right here. I wanna say I got it from Powerhouse Racing. This is specifically designed to hold this diameter style fuel pump. I wanna say it's like 39mm or so. To be honest with you, I looked everywhere, and this was like the only option. It was semi-expensive, but it wasn't too terribly expensive considering that we're making it ourselves. This is gonna be the return. So this is a -6. As you can tell, it's got a recessed section on it where you can drill the hole out bigger. It sits inside. And then also part of the return, I got this little piece of stainless wire, or excuse me, a little piece of stainless hose that we can turn. I'm gonna basically weld that onto there. I'm gonna pre-bend it first, then I'm gonna weld it onto this, and then I'm gonna weld this onto this. I have these 2 pieces of metal. They're basically gonna sit like so, kind of make like a T tripod type area. And that's gonna, this right here is basically this section. So I wanna use the flat section. All I gotta do is drill some holes or slot this where I can slide this up and down, and we'll get it done. This here I got off of eBay. I wanna say it was right around $10, $12. You can actually get something like this at Lowe's, but this is a terminal block, meaning that if I got power on this terminal, it's gonna send power over to that. I made sure that I got something that would, that's capable of 10 gauge, because running these fuel pumps, especially with the 525, this is an Aeromotive 340, but with the 525, it's specific that you need to run a 10 gauge wire because it do require a lot of amperage. I got a weather packing that on the outside of this, you know, we can terminate all this stuff and run it to wherever we want to, like the Holley and the battery and whatnot. I got a universal float. We may or may not use this, but I have a Holley dash, so all I gotta do is check the ohms on this and the resistance, plug it into the Holley, and I got a working fuel gauge. I did get some fuel rated wire. This stuff ain't really that special, but it is special. It's basically a Teflon or silicone Teflon coated type of wire that basically repels against fuel. I got this from Racetronics. I love them to death, man. They're out of Canada, but their website is easy to navigate. And I don't think this was too terribly expensive. I got basically 4 colors, powered ground, and I think these 2 are gonna be for our fuel float or fuel level. Hey, and on a side note, you can get something made from like radium. I forget how much it costs, maybe like $700, $800, maybe it's a little cheaper than that. But I like to fabricate. I like to make stuff. I'm one of those car enthusiasts that I don't like just buy parts and then install it. Like, I like to get the full effect. I like to make something, put it on the car, and then like I get more of my like high off of doing that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? This is definitely a little bit more challenging. Of course, you need a TIG welder. You need to have some kind of mechanical knowledge on making this stuff. But guess what? When I'm done making it, I'm gonna be proud of it. And plus, it's just good content. You know what I'm saying? How many cats are really making their own dual fuel pump hanger assembly on a 240? And he black. You know what I'm saying? Not that it matter, okay? I know it's 2022. You know what I'm saying? Jokers be getting offended, but I'm black and I ain't offended. But yeah, I'm out here doing it. And I'm real country. How about that? Catch me outside. How about that? Hey, and to all my black people watching, you know. And this is like my little whiteboard where I took a bunch of measurements and all that kind of stuff for reference. I even got like a little diagram down here in case you want to know. 2 individual hots. I got the grounds joining together, but they may actually not be joined together. Actually, they're not going to be joined together. They're going to join together outside of the fuel pump hanger. I got my fuel pump depth from top to bottom. And then I got a couple of like items that I had to purchase. So if you want some of that spec stuff, here you go. 3/8 to 1/8 inch MPT, 1/2 inch to 14 MPT. Got a couple of 10 and 8 ORBs. That may help somebody. All right, fam, so I got this thing trimmed down as much as I would like. I left a little bit of meat on the outside just to give it a little rigidity. So one of the things I need to do is I got these things marked. For example, this right here says plus negative for fuel pump. That's this fitting. It's gonna go here. Fuel return. That's gonna be that fitting there. I know that my feed is gonna go right over top of where the fuel pump's gonna go. And I got that little dot is gonna be for the 2 little wires coming out for the fuel level gauge. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a drill bit to make a small indentation of where the hole needs to be, because I wanna put this thing on the wheel, or my convolute wheel, and buff everything so it'll be prepared for welding. So let's go ahead and drill our holes first, size everything up, and I probably need to make a template too. Yeah, I need to make a template so I know exactly where everything goes, because my memory is shot. All right, Speedaddixx, a few days have passed and we have jumped right back on this dual fuel pump hanger that I am making completely from scratch. This is where we're at. I've already cut out all of my holes. I trimmed out the excess material on the outside, and I've already welded one of the 4 fittings on there. As you can tell, I got this piece screwed in. It kind of acts as a heat sink. Also, it's kind of designed to keep the threads true. This bung here is gonna be the bung that's gonna fit this fitting right here, which is basically gonna be where the 2 lines, or the 2 wires coming out from my float system. So we're gonna go ahead and weld some of these up. We're probably gonna leave this one for last, because that one is gonna be the return. Check out that daggone brass. That brass turned into a nice, pretty little color. Ooh-wee. Them welds though, ooh-woo. Before I weld the feed in, as you notice, it's kind of shaped like a octagon or whatever. I basically mimicked the shape of this. I could have rounded it off and then drilled just a basic hole, but I decided to go this way. So this is one item I haven't cleaned yet. Put this on the convolute wheel, tack it up, and then we'll weld it up as well. So before I attach this to the tube, I think I want to make the pedestal for where I want the dual fuel pump hanger to bolt up to. That joker hot. So I'm gonna have to use this as a reference, and then also got to take in consideration where I want to put this float. If you look at how this float is set up, you know, this float is kind of, or the float sensor is kind of at an angle. This is definitely like a 90 degree. That's like a 90 degree. So I think that I can mimic it just like so. And actually, if you look at this sensor, I don't have to turn it at an angle. I can actually keep it, what do you call it, perpendicular with everything. Let's cut that little section off and come back. Alright fam, I got that piece trimmed down, and when I weld this, two things. I want to weld it on the edge like that, and then I want to use the pulse function so that I get minimal penetration. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use something like this to kind of square it up, use a clamp to tighten it down, and then we'll see if we can like fuse weld it that way. Got a piece of box steel. I think I got my fit up just like I want it. Double check everything, and then we're gonna go ahead and fuse weld that. Alright, so that's what the pulse looks like with no filler material. Just enough fusion. We'll let this cool off and we'll check the backside. That's the corner. I may knock down that lip or something. And then that's the backside, got a little black paint stuck to it. So now we need to make sure if we want to go ahead and weld this up, this is gonna sit like that. That's how it's gonna sit in there. So as you can tell, this one is sitting like so. This is the bottom, that's the top, this is the bottom. This is gonna screw in like this. Turn it like that. This is gonna go like this. And then let me get the fuel pump holder. So like that. And then the fuel pump holder is gonna bolt up here. I think I'm gonna slide it so that you can get a little bit of adjustability, but it's gonna basically hold the fuel pumps like that. And then we also need to figure out how we want to set this up as well. And also on the side note, for compactability, if that's a word, I think I want to stagger these. So basically one is gonna be over top of the other so that like this diameter will be kind of shrinking so to fit inside of the bowl. So this is the first time we're gonna check that out and see if it works. All right, fam, the next day, this is where we stand. I used the pulse functions. I welded this piece on. I got this slotted so that I can adjust my fuel pumps in the bowl. Again, I measured about 9.5 inches. That's where we sit. Now we're to the point where we're ready to install this float. I've used this one here as a template. I kind of had to bend, kind of open this up. I don't know if you remember, but before they were, for the most part, exactly the same. I kind of put it in the vise, bent this out a little bit. I've already drilled my 2 holes there, drilled my 2 holes there. And then I'm gonna use a little bitty washer to kind of space it out a smidge. The way this float works is it's a ground. So I'm gonna have this riveted to this section, which the whole top hat and assembly is gonna be grounded. And then I'll run this wire through the holly to the dash. And then I forget what the ohms is on it, but we'll configure the ohms. I wanna say it's 0 to 240. So all we gotta do is input that into the holly. And here's my 2 washers that I'm gonna use to go in between this and this to space it out a smidge. To be honest with you, I think I'm ready to test fit it. But at the same time, man, I really do not wanna get any more fuel on it because I'm not quite done welding on it. Actually, I changed my mind. I think it's gonna work, but I kind of want to finish doing the welding, and or possibly I could drain the tank and then test fit it kind of dry. But yeah, I want to do the return first. That's the last item, but I want to do the return. And matter of fact, let me go ahead and put the fittings in there and kind of show you what we're looking like so far. So that's what we're looking like. Feed -8. This is my 2-wire fuel connector that basically when you tighten down on this top nut, it basically compresses the wire inside of a rubber grommet. It's a 2-wire. I forget what gauge, but it is a smaller gauge wire to go to my fuel pump float assembly. To be honest with you, all I need is one of those wires. So I didn't even consider that. Or I could take that ground off and then run both of those wires through there and then ground it somewhere else. Maybe like up here or something. And then of course there's the bigger bulkhead connector, which is gonna run 4 wires. These are to the fuel pump. And I made sure that the little holes right there are gonna be good for basically a 10 gauge. All right, fam, now we're to the point of the fuel pump assembly where we're ready to weld in our -6 return male stainless steel bung. And then we also need to weld in this tube. But before we weld this tube in, we need to do 2 things. We need to bend it, which we're gonna use this manual pipe bender. I think I got this one from Harbor Freight. I got my pipe cutter in case we need to cut it to length. And the whole process of this is when you got fuel coming in through here, if I didn't have this tube on, basically the fuel will free fall. When that fuel is free fall, there's a chance that it can create static and potentially cause a fire or combustion inside of this tank. So I want this thing not only to run down this tube and drop down into the fuel, basically be submerged into the fuel, but also want it to drain back into the sump section. That way we still have a chance of keeping all the fuel. So I think I want to put it kind of like this. So that means we're gonna have to probably kick it, probably 2 bends to kick it over this direction. And then putting both of them side by side, you can tell how this return kind of runs real close to the mounting location for the fuel pump. So like I said, something like that I think will work. That's my second bin. So while this cool off, the last portion of this whole fuel pump assembly we need to address is the wiring. So let me show you what we have as far as getting this thing wired up. First things first, probably most important, is the wiring. When it comes to the wiring, you need something that's silicone based, so therefore it withstands, you know, the fuel vapors and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you know good well if you can't put fuel in your eye, it's probably pretty daggone strong. So what we have here is we have red and black. Both of these are 10 gauge. These are what we're gonna use to run to our fuel pump. And then outside of the fuel pump assembly, we're gonna run it to a connector, which I'll show you in a second. And then I just picked some random wire. These two wires, or really one of these wires, is gonna be for the fuel pump, or excuse me, for the fuel float, AKA fuel level. Again, 10 gauge, and this here is 14 gauge. Also, we gotta have a way to run our wire through the bolt head to the outside, and we need to have something sealed tight. This is what we're gonna use. These come from Hayco. Hayco is a company that does like manufacturing. They have stuff like stainless steel ties. They have wrapping for your wire. Go to their website, and make a long story short, you can pick all the items you want as like a sample package. All you have to do is pay for shipping. I've known about them for 10 years. This stuff literally I've had for about that long, and I'm just now having an opportunity to use it for the second time again. On my first fuel pump hanger assembly, this is what I use to have my wires going from the inside to the outside of the fuel pump assembly. These are my connectors. I think I got this off eBay. All you gotta do is type in that part number, seal connector kit, and this is what you get. This is rated for 30 amps, which would be plenty enough for our high output fuel pump, mainly the Walbro 525 Hellcat pump. And then these are the Sirius 10 gauge male female connectors that we'll be using on the outside of the fuel pump assembly. This particular pigtail came with a nice color coded instructions. You can also scan that to watch the video. But make a long story short, it's just like wiring and soldering. You need to do everything in order, and basically it fits together like a glove. In order to crimp these connectors onto the wires, you will need something like this, which is called an open crimp, which I bought this off of Amazon, and we're gonna use it to get the job done. And then real quick, if you're like me where you're using a Hellcat pump, the Hellcat pump already comes with this connector. That's exactly what this connector is, the FMK 280. Let me take it out the package and I'll show you the male version and watch how it snaps into place. Here's the male-in version, like a glove. right, real quick, man. This open barrel crimp is designed for down to 12 gauge. This is 10 gauge. So I need to, basically I need to get the other one. They got 2 of these and I need to get the other one. And it's not working. So we're gonna come back to this. This is how you check to figure out what the ohms are on your fuel pump assembly. I got one prong on the ground, put the other prong on this, and of course I got it on ohms. At its lowest point, we got 247, 246, and then at its highest point, we got 0.43. So I need to document that, and I need to input that in the Holly.
3 days later.
My new open crimp tool came from Amazon. Let's check it out. This one here is made from the same company, IWISS. But this one here is like a ratcheting style. I kind of like it. Now we're ready to put that into there. I've already done it once, it fits, but I will let you know it is tight. I'm gonna have to finagle this, bend this a little bit to get it in, and that's all it is to it. Off camera, I had to take these bolts, cut them down a little bit on the bench grinder, ran them through the tap, and I think they're the perfect height. What was happening was I was tightening them down and they were bottoming out, meaning they were too long. So I shortened them and I got washers. All right, right here I got a data log pulled up. As you can tell to the left of the screen, all I want to show you is boost, and main thing, my second fuel pump number 2. You know I can't close this video out without showing you that it works. Start right here, -5 PSI. As I pan through, I got this thing, in this particular case, I got it activated at like 0.1 pounds of boost. So right there, you got 0 pounds of boost. Click over one more time, 2.3 pounds of boost. And as you can see, that green line is fuel pump number 2. The green light means that it's activated, and there you have it. Secondary fuel pump works.